Hello and welcome to this hands-on lab where we will learn more about AWS IAM. There are two broad objectives of this lesson. First is to learn more about roles, IAM roles, and second, IAM users. And if we get some time, we'll also take a look at S3 bucket policy. All right? Wonderful. So if you can recall, in one of the hands-on lab, I was able to execute the command AWS S3 ls and it returned the name of S3 bucket I had in that account, right? How is that possible? So if we try and understand this, it is very simple. It was an API call made to AWS S3. And for that API call had to be authenticated with proper permission, right? IAM. And before making that API call, we had configured AWS CLI with the programmatic access, secret key and ID, everything, right? Wonderful. Now, if we spin up an EC2 instance and through this EC2 instance, if we want to issue the same command, will we be able to get the same result? Okay, so if we do not do anything, then we will not get that result because this EC2 instance does not have, it is not authenticated, it is not authorized. So it does not have permission to make that S3 API call. So we can actually do AWS configure on EC2 instance, save the programmatic access credentials there, and then we can make the call. But it is highly discouraged, not recommended at all. It is a security risk, a very high level of security risk. You do not want to put your programmatic access credentials on EC2 instances ever. And if you have to do that, then as soon as you're done, terminate that EC2 instance. So, what is the other way? What we can do is, if you can recall, in our conceptual session, we talked about IAM roles, and IAM roles were for one AWS service to access another AWS service. So here, EC2 instance is one AWS service and it needs to access, make API calls to another AWS service called S3. So we need an IAM role. We need an IAM role for EC2. And that's what we are going to see here. Okay. Great. Now for that, we need an EC2. For that, we need to create an EC2. In a couple of sessions back, we created auto scaling group and we made the total number of instances 0. That's why there are no active instances running. So the easiest way of spinning up an EC2 instance is for this auto scaling group to have desired capacity, minimum capacity, and maximum capacity as 1. So it will spin up one EC2 instance through launch template. Great. Wonderful. Probably it will take a minute. In the meantime, we can also take a look at IAM. And then we can come to instances so that when the instance is launched, we know about it. Users. So we have one user. That is the user with which we are logged in. Let us see what sort of permission this user has. If you recall, we gave it administrative access. Now we want to see how does the policy document for administrative access look like. Okay. This is administrator access. JSON. Okay. If you had expected a very huge policy document because it needed access to a lot of things, then this is a disappointment. But actually, this is a very effective way of documenting that. this policy document holder, which in this case is the IAM user, Amit, has access to all the resources. Action is all the actions possible on all the resources, and the effect is allow. So there's no stopping this user. That's why it is administrator access. All right. So that is one of the understanding that we wanted to have. How does the policy document look like? And we can take a look at other policy documents if you want. And in fact, I will encourage you to go through a lot of policy documents if you want. These are policy documents. Just go ahead and see. Action, EC2, describe address, EC2, describe by IP CIDRs. I mean, there's so many API calls. So all these are API calls on EC2 instances, right? All these actions. So it is completely up to you if you want to explore this in your own time. Right now, let us see if the EC2 instance is up and running. Yes, it is up and running. Let us see if it is a web server. It is a web server. Wonderful. Great. Now we need to, although we're not going to make use of this EC2 server being a web server, we need to get into this EC2 instance. And we are into this EC2 instance. Now let us first try this. And unable to locate credentials, you can configure credentials by running AWS configure. This was the first option we discussed, right? Which I said is highly discouraged. All right. So what was the second option that we discussed? Create a role for this EC2 instance and attach the role to this EC2 instance. 2, list the S3 buckets. On second thoughts, if we continue creating role and assigning it and validating the API call, it is going to take some time here. And this lecture will be a longer lecture than what we want it to be. So allow me to stop here and we'll continue the same lab session in our next lesson. All right. Thank you and looking forward to seeing you in the next lesson.